How is this playing out with Sun readers? I should imagine, like many people, they were very, very supportive of Israel's right to defend itself, but that was almost without question right at the beginning. But with more stories like this emerging, has the shift in support from your readers changed?
I think the general feeling is they just want a stop to the violence, like we all do when we see those images of the aid workers who were their vehicles we saw those graphic images of the vehicles that were destroyed the other day. So there has been a shift. It has been 6 months, and things seem to have got extremely testing out there. But it's not our only readers who've seen that shift. But I think there's more and more pressure on the Prime Minister. We've got, he's got another battle on his hands. We've got some of his MPs calling for an end to the to exporting arms, and some who want it to continue. So he's got another battle on that front that he's got to contend with.
Ryan, a lot of the criticism of the Prime Minister is that it's all words. And the words that the Prime Minister used yesterday, speaking to Harry Cole on that programme, was that Israel's actions are becoming increasingly intolerable. I guess the question is, how much can we tolerate before strong words aren't the response that we give?
Yeah, I think that's difficult, and I think it's very difficult for Britain, America. I think there's been a lot of language. You've seen President Biden change his language over the past sort of few weeks and months, particularly. But I did think one thing from that telephone call that we got on Tuesday night, the readout that Downing Street gave, the language changed massively, and as you say, the increasingly intolerable situation. Things had changed, and Downing Street wants to turn up the temperature on Benjamin Netanyahu, and it's going to be a very difficult few weeks if things continue as they do. But as we understand that the Prime Minister is receptive to giving Israel a little bit more time while they hold this urgent investigation into this aid worker, the incident on earlier this week. So I think the Prime Minister is willing to give them a little bit of time, but not too much longer.
And James, what message do you think this sends to the wider British public, that if something happens to you abroad of this nature, the very best that the Prime Minister and the government can do is say that this is increasingly intolerable rather than take any firmer action?
I mean, that is a really, really good question. And where the public stand on this, and we've seen polling that suggests that a majority of people now would support halting aid to Israel, is a really, really key point here. And I think, there has been discussion of why has it taken the death of 3 British aid volunteers to draw this level of outrage. Their photos were on the front page of pretty much every newspaper yesterday. We don't see that when it's the death of ordinary Palestinian civilians, and there have been now more than 30,000 deaths in Gaza since the start of the war, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. Yeah,
over 200 aid workers as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a really good question.
Yeah, the poll you're talking about is in terms of not talking about aid, but British voters support a ban on arms sales to Israel. James, the Prime Minister is saying, for now, we need to wait and see what the investigation that Israel conducts comes up with. What kind of timeline are we talking about here? Is there an idea from the British government that Israel's investigation will be thorough enough and credible for us to then make concrete decisions?
Yeah, a very good point, because a lot of people, frankly, would be sceptical of how transparent Israel are really going to be about this. We know they do have a track record of at first denying any responsibility for certain attacks. Then they say they're investigating. And so some people will raise eyebrows as to whether we're going to get the full truth from the IDF, because it does appear, if you look at, what happened, that this was a pretty systematic targeting of 3 vehicles in an aid convoy. And we know that the head of the charity that was sadly affected has been very, very critical, essentially accusing the IDF of deliberately targeting them.